On left downwind, turn base now. Tundra.
Got traffic there.
Glasser, just take it up to the departure end of the runway, then a left turn into lowest downwind. Cessna over the threshold, coming up on the white dot, at or beyond the white dot, left turn first available. I got a high wind coming up on about a half-mile final, clear to land at or beyond. Traffic on the left face, you're following a Cessna down low off your left. Square it up just a little bit, and then we're going to get you in. Start your descent, though. Start your descent on the base. Traffic on final, give me follow on base. Base traffic, start turning toward the numbers now. High wing coming up on quarter-mile final, take it all the way down to the green. Cessna taxiing on the green, expedite down to the next hard surface. Get me some speed, there you go, go fast. This is going to be good. I got traffic on a mile final, you're following traffic ahead and to your right. High wing coming up on the threshold, take it all the way down to the green dot.
5 Charlie Sierra, 2 mile final.
A mile final, turn north, and we're going to just make you, we're going to bring you back around. Jet traffic's coming up on about a mile and a half final, runway 9er clear to land.
Okay, all right, let's listen up, guys. If you're on final for runway 9, I want you to offset to the left. I got a jet that's landing on runway 9. The jet's cleared to land runway 9 if you can make it. If not, just continue straight ahead. It looks like you're going around for the jet. That's fine.
Oh, we had one right in front of us, sir.
Tail dragger. Let's see. What we got? A tricycle. Tricycle, put it down. Tricycle, put it down. Tail dragger. Down to the green dot, then a left turn. Short final here. You cleared land on 9 all the way to the white dot. Go down to the white dot. Find somebody to follow out here. Kennard, just come to the runway, and I might have to just send you around. That'll be fine. And for the jet, you just want to stay in this pattern, or you want to go back out for an instrument approach?
Stay in a pattern, Charlie Sierra.
All right, just stay with me here for a minute. And my tail dragger, let's see, over the numbers. Go down to the green. And Kennard's going to have to go around. Kennard, go around. And my high wing here over the runway, keep it airborne. You do not descend. You got a fast guy behind you. Do not descend. There you go. Keep it airborne. As soon as the guy behind you gets slowed down, I'm going to put you down. So keep it airborne. The one that just passed the white dot, make a left turn on the hard surface. All right, my high wing tail dragger, you can put it down now. And Charlie Sierra, let me get you about a mile off. Let's see, Charlie Sierra, I lost. There you are. Make a left-hand turn. I'll try to resequence you here on the downwind. We'll see how it looks. Short final, you're clear to land runway 9 on the white dot. There you go. And the tricycle left on the hard surface and follow the flagman. Welcome. Thanks for being part of the show. And let's see, just find somebody to follow on the final. And as you get close to the runway, if it's not going to work, we're going to send you around and then try to resequence you. Now, who else got sent around that's not back on the downwind? The Kennard?
Yeah, Kennard.
All right, Kennard, there's a Gulfstream up there that went around too. I just lost sight of him, but you're going to make kind of a left-hand turn and stay low. I think Charlie Sierra, what's your altitude?
3,200.
Okay, that'll be fine. Just maintain VFR. I don't know what else is up there above you. Probably most everybody's down here, so just make a left-hand turn. We'll try to get you back here.
Kennard's got the jet in sight.
Okay, the RB, maybe an RB-10, whatever, you're on final. Keep your speed up and go all the way down to the, aim for the green dot for me. Actually, keep your speed up. There's a guy behind you. Aim for the green dot, and I'm sure that's plenty of room for you to land on runway 9. You're clear to land on runway 9. Number 2, you're going to go down to the white dot. Follow the white dot. Actually, you know what? That's 1,500 feet. You're going to land at the white dot. The spacing looks adequate here. 2 guys on final. You're kind of tight there. Keep each other in sight, and you're going to aim for the white dot. If it's not going to work, we'll come up with a plan B. We might have to send you around. The second guy behind you out there in about a 2-mile final. Are you slow enough to be able to follow that guy in front of you? You need to go around.
Yeah, follow.
Well, I probably shouldn't ask that because I had about 5 guys answer me, so I should know better than that after 35 years, you would think, right? All right, so let me see. The guy who's number 1, it's number 1. What kind of airplane is he? An RV type. All right, RV type. Keep it airborne for me. And I got a fast guy behind you. The number 2 guy over the trees there. Go ahead and put it down on the numbers. My first guy just coming up on the numbers at the over the grass at the numbers. I want you to keep it airborne, please. I got a fast guy behind you. Keep it airborne. White RV, white dot. White RV, white dot. My guy over the numbers. Yep, keep it going. There you go. Just it looks like a blue low wing. Keep it airborne. You got a fast guy behind you. Don't descend yet. Wait until he gets it under control and gets off the runway. My guy landed. Make a left turn on the hard surface. Can you do that?
Kennard, request a base.
All right, hold on. Watch that guy on the runway. Turn left to clear the runway. There you go. Charles here, they made a fantastic call for you here. I'm going to put that Kennard, though, probably in front of you once I'm able to find him. Kennard, start your base. Yeah, I see you. Kennard, man, you are fast. You beat the Gulfstream. What are the odds? All right, Kennard, make a left-hand turn. Well, you guys do 100 knots when you're sitting on the ground. Just make a left-hand turn and come directly to 9. Runway 9, clear to land. Charlie Sierra, base your discretion. And I think I might have a twin out there, but that's all right. Charlie Sierra, we're not going to send you back around. So Charlie Sierra, go ahead and start the base. And Canard, let's see. Actually, man, you guys are coming out of nowhere. I see the Canard now. Okay. Charlie Sierra, go ahead and slow it up and square the turn to final here. Everybody join the final here, and Charlie Sierra, I'm going to try to make this work for you. Traffic on the runway, put it down there. Put it down, runway 9, clear to land. And my Cub type, keep it up to the green dot. Green dot's good. Go on, keep your speed up, and turn left onto the hard surface here. Short final, go down to the white dot now. You got traffic rolling out. Cub, go ahead and land. Cub, go ahead and land. That's fine. And my little guy here on the white dot, keep your speed up. Keep your speed up. Keep your speed up. Make a left-hand turn on the hard surface. And it looks like my twin's going to have to go around here probably. Yeah, twin go around. Twin go around. Twin go around. Yeah, there. Sorry about that. That's snuck right up on us here. And the other tricycle there, turn left on the hard surface and look for the flagman. Cardinal all the way down to the green dot. Cardinal all the way down to the green dot. I got 2 Canards. You're going to land on the threshold. 2 Canards, both of you. Land on runway 9. And Charlie Sierra, you know what? Oh, man, I hate to do that. All right, Charlie, my 2 Canards offset to the left. I'm going to send you around again. The 2 Canards go around left side. Keep each other in sight, please. Go around left side. Charlie Sierra, you're cleared to land runway 9.
Clear to land now, Charlie Sierra.
Go ahead. You know what? You're going to have to go around too. Cessna over the runway, go around. Cessna over the runway, go around. Cub, I need you off the runway. Cub, I need you off the runway. Get in the grass if you have to. Cub, I need you off the runway. Left in the grass if you have to. There you go. The Canards are going around. All right, Charlie Sierra, here's another part of the show. I guess you're going around as well. All right, Cessna, that's fine. Put it down and make a left-hand turn. You're going to have to go into the grass. Charlie Sierra, continue straight ahead. Canard, you're going too fast to land. That's fine. Just continue straight ahead. All right, Charlie Sierra, let me see. I got a guy out there heading to your left. I have no idea what that is. I don't think he was one of my go-around. It was the twin Cessna I sent around. I should have known. All right, twin Cessna, go ahead and make the left-hand turn. Re-enter the downwind. I think Fisk is going to help clean us up. Charlie Sierra, you can turn crosswind the crosswind your discretion. Canard, can you follow that twin off your left? Twin on a mile final. You're cleared to land on 9 at the white dot.
For UG, Roger.
There's your performer at prison inbound.
All right, hold at the prison.
Hold the prison.
Yeah, and the Canard, are you going to be able to follow that twin? Do you see him? Okay, that radio's not readable at all, so just follow that guy. Number 2 Canard, follow the other Canard. That'll just work out perfect. If you guys keep each other in sight, that's going to work. I got 2 twins on final. You're both clear to land. And aim for the white dot, please. Keep each other in sight. The T-tail twin on the numbers. T-tail twin on the numbers. And the other guy, you go down to the white dot. And, aim closer to the green dot. It's fine.
Charlie Sierra is turning downwind.
Yeah, Charlie Sierra, continue on the downwind. We'll try to find a hole for you here.
Do we have anybody in front of us? It's not going to work.
Welcome to Oshkosh.
Yeah, I know.
All right, twins are looking good. Am I go around, guy? That's great. Turn left and come direct to the white dot. And clear to land, runway 9 on the white dot. That's perfect. Rolling out, make a left turn into the grass. It's past the orange dot. There's flagmen out there. Make a left turn into the grass. Cess on a 1.5 mile final. And let's see. You see that traffic heading to your left turn in the base?
Sure.
All right, can you follow me?
We can do right 360.
No. That's the last thing I want you to do. Just come over to the right side a little bit. Just keep him in sight, but stay to the right. Stay to the right. Stay to the right. Just kind of parallel the runway there. And the low wing, I believe you're the guy that went around. Caution for that Cessna. He's actually, looks like he might be in front. Just use caution for the helicopters there. There you go. That's fine. And my twin, yeah, you're cleared to land, runway 9. You're going to overtake that guy. My Cessna on final, you're going to have to go around too. Just continue upwind. Cessna on the Cessna, you're going to go around. I got a faster guy below you that's going to land, so don't descend. Just continue straight ahead. Don't turn downwind or crosswind until you get up probably toward the shoreline. My twin, again, you're clear to land.
Crosswind for Charlie Sierra.
Charlie Sierra, go ahead and start the base. We're going to try to part the seas for you. That Fisk didn't cut them off, but there's still a bunch of arrivals coming in here, so we'll see where we can see what it looks like when you get here.
All right.
Charlie Sierra, there's a Cessna there in about 1.5 mile, 2 mile final. Cessna on about 2 mile final. Just go around. I want you to climb up to 1,800 feet. Just fly down the runway. There you go. Traffic is touching down on the runway. We need a left turn on the hard surface just as soon as you can. We do have jet traffic coming inbound. Cessna, once again, that's short final, A-firm. Hold that 1,800 feet. Yep, Canard, that's coming up on a short final. I need you to keep it airborne all the way down to the white dot. Left turn that first intersection. I do have jet traffic inbound, and we're not going to send them around again. Traffic coming up on the green dot. Left turn that hard surface. Charlie Sierra, runway 9, clear to land.
Clear to land 9, Charlie Sierra.
I got another Cessna, about a mile final. I have permitted 1,800 feet, fly upwind. I got jet traffic going to pass below you. He's going to land. You are going to be at 1,800 feet. We'll find a hole for you later. Second Canard, short final, go around. Canard, short final, go around, go around, go around. Canard, short final, go around.
Going around.
Canard is rolling out, making a left turn at the orange dot. Left turn at the orange dot, the one that's going... There you go, there you go. Canard, take it up to the departure into the runway, then a left crosswind and a downwind.
Yeah, my Cessna that first got sent around, go ahead and make a left-hand turn to the crosswind. You're going to have Canard traffic faster, but he's going to be behind it to your left. So go ahead and make that left-hand turn to re-enter the downwind. There you go.
All right, Canard, if you can make that turn to the downwind, do it now. Perfect. Cessna that's making the left turn, firm. Once you hit the departure end, you hit the shoreline, make the left-hand turn, come back into the pattern. Canard, we're going to make you number 1 behind the jet. Charlie Sierra, you're clear to land. Thanks for the patience.
Clear to land. Thanks.
Yes, sir. Performer still at the prison, 2,500.
Hold at the prison. Cessna, if you have a Cessna and you're on upwind, beyond the runway, turn crosswind. There's a Cessna midfield on upwind. I just want you to take it up a little bit. There's another one down the line. Charlie Sierra, left turn the first hard surface. Thanks very much for the help. Canard, make the turn. Bring it right to the numbers. Runway 9, clear to land.
Welcome to the very first, and possibly last, who knows, but no, let's be positive. Welcome to the very first Fly Alive week. We're here all week from 7 until 9 p.m, so 2 hours a night, plus you'll be able to watch on catch up. I won't do that joke. So what have we got on tonight? Well, before we start that, why are we doing this? Well, we're doing this because, as you know, there's a whole bunch of events that are cancelled all over the place, cancelled, postponed, all sorts of stuff. And up until recently, we couldn't even fly. So we thought we'd get together with an event that was going to definitely happen, whatever happened. Now, we're bringing you all sorts of the usual stuff you get at events and lots of information from sponsors and stand holders and all sorts of other bits and pieces. Tonight, we've got news coming up. We'll have a whole bunch of news. We've got Ivy MacGyver joining us from Cirrus, who will be in from Tennessee. We've got a video on Bristol Ground School. We're running Fantasy Hangar all week, so find out what that is and join in, please. We've got Ben Wyatt coming along telling us all about microlights and air traffic control, or air traffic control and microlights. General Aviation if you want to find out about Robin. Plus all sorts of other things. We'll probably even have a look and poke around our flight bags, see what we carry or what we should and shouldn't carry, which is really just an excuse to take the mickey out of Dave. Plus, at the same time, and then we've got a Bose film. So that's what we got tonight. There you go. Welcome, anyway, and welcome, everyone. There you go. When I said nearly, I forgot to mention that in the background we've got Mark and Siobhan from Redison. They're our production team. So occasionally you might hear us go, Mark, can we have this picture? Siobhan, can you put this up? So if you're wondering, that's what that's all about. What have we got coming up? I think we've got a little video on how to use the website, haven't we?
I hope so.
Hello and welcome to this very quick guide on the Flyer Live website. As you can see, if you go to live.flyer.co.uk, you get to the website for the whole week's Flyer Live. It's pretty simple. At the top, watch live. You can pop in here. This is the best place to watch it. You can see the live stream, which is from YouTube, and obviously you can join in, ask a question, and see whatever you need from there. Then there's the schedule. You got one of these for each day with everything that's going on. I'm not entirely sure how long that will survive before things get changed and move around. Then we got the really important page for exhibitors. Thank you very much to all of these people who supported Flyer Live this week. So please feel free to pop in, see these people, get the information you need, ask lots of questions, and find their contact details and all sorts of other bits and pieces. So please take time to go check out the videos, and lastly, catch up. So after each day, we'll be uploading the previous day's content. So if you've got nothing better to do and you miss one day, you can always watch it again. Thank you very much. Hope you enjoy the week, and goodbye. Hello. One more thing. It's going to be one more thing. Well, it's our first night. It's just a little. Got the order a little bit wrong. So you'll see a whole bunch of names across the bottom of the thing, and we have to thank our sponsors because, frankly, when we came up with this idea, we thought it would be easy, but actually, it's a lot of work. It's taken us a lot of work and cost us a lot of money to get this far. So we want to thank our sponsors: Avionics, Bose, Garmin, Cirrus, Leading Edge Aviation, Mistral, Poulies, BGS, Textron Aviation, plus all of the other stand holders. So go take a look at those for us. Without those people, it wouldn't be possible. And of course, without you, it wouldn't be possible. Talking about those sponsors, there's a competition, I believe. So throughout the week, if you enter the competition, you can win yourself. It's courtesy of Poulies, so one of our sponsors. So you can win yourself a pair of Bose A20 headsets worth just under £1,000. You can win yourself a Garmin D2 Air watch, which I think is about £450 ish, or you can get a £250 gift card for Poulies and spend it on pretty much anything they sell, really. In order to enter the competition, pop over to the Poulies stand, have a read, answer the question, and go for it. There you go. Time for some news. Dave. Hello and welcome. Hello and welcome to this very quick. There you go. Ed.
Good news. It's me next, is it? Sorry,
Yeah.
Next item. So obviously, it's good news that flying and going for a flying lesson has returned. So obviously now it's the great time to pick up your copy of the new Flyer Learn to Fly guide, which went live today. And the 2021 edition of the guide. It's free to read and free to download. It's full of all the information you need to start you on your path to learning to fly.
Absolutely. Johnny, race away, Johnny.
Yes, so we've got some exciting 2XL news. 2XL, who are the company behind the blades and various other interesting aviation operations like the Oil Spill Response 727. They're going to be providing operational support and regulatory oversight for the WCAR or WECAR World Championship air race, which is going to be an exciting new thing happening soon. But part of that, the blades themselves have an AOC, or 2XL have an AOC, so they're effectively an aerobatic airline. So part of that means that they'll be able to take media and VIPs on free and also paid flights. So that's a great new thing for 2XL. So well done to them.
Do you think they can take media on free flights? Not really interested in a paid flight.
That's it. Stuff a journalist in an aeroplane and ring them out.
Dave, what happened 60 years ago? Okay. I guess I'm going to take over a little bit because Dave's sound has gone for whatever reason. So if you can hear me, 60 years ago today, Yuri Gagarin popped up. I think it was in Vostok, wasn't it? Did one tour of the Earth and came back down. So there you go. He was 27 when he did it. And 7 or 8 years later, unfortunately, he died in a MiG-15 accident. Now, it's kind of like, I don't know a huge amount about his once around the Earth, but the MiG-15 accident's got a whole load of conspiracy stuff going on as well. So if you want to catch up on thoughts about a Sukhoi went within 20 meters of him, supersonic, Brezhnev killed him off because he was too popular and he was getting things named after him left, right, and center. Fascinating story, but who knows? Anyway, that was me making up the Yuri, not making up, but me taking over from Dave on the Yuri Gagarin story because I've got sound and Dave hasn't, apparently.
I think they're spannering on the Dave end at the moment. So I'll give you the next news story, which is obviously Sun and Fun starts tomorrow. The first live aviation event that's gone on since pretty much everything was cancelled last year. Sun and Fun was obviously one of the first things to suffer a cancellation in 2020. So Sun and Fun opens tomorrow, runs to the 18th. I think they're limiting ticket numbers, but to something like 30,000 a day. And there's lots of talk of careful COVID practicing, and you have to wear a mask if you're inside some of the show halls and things like that. But hopefully they'll have a good show. So one thing we do know is that in the US, Pipistrel will have the Pantera, which is currently being offered as an experimental. And they're talking of 2022 for certification of that, though certification of the Pantera has been often talked about for many years so far. So, Ian, I think you've got some bits of news about France.
There are, yeah. I have 3 bits of news about France, and none of them are good. France is probably, in my opinion, the second best place in the world to fly, just behind the US, really, which is by far the best place in the world to fly. 3 bits of bad news. The first bit of bad news is there's a whole load of stuff going on around Mont Blanc and the Mont Blanc Massif. It appears that there's a chance that will be closed to aviation. When I say aviation, it'll be closed to sport aviation and tourist flights and stuff like that. They'll still be okay with the helicopters taking stuff up to the chalets and taking stuff to the ski lifts because there's big money involved in that. But people don't like the general aviation side of it for some reason. Then the next bit is the mayor of Poitiers, who declared that the town of Poitiers was going to stop their financial support, which is not huge, I don't believe, but stop their financial support to the local aero club. She's the Green Mayor of Poitiers, and I think the thing that shocked most people is she made a comment. She basically said that effectively children should not have aviation in their dreams anymore, which was boo hiss for her. And lastly, but not least on the hat trick of bad news from across the channel, Ryanair appears to have pulled out of Dinar. So 18 people at Dinar lost their jobs. And so fingers crossed that Dinar as an airport will survive. I don't know whether it will keep customs or not keep customs or what will happen. But let's hope that it still remains around. So there you go. Johnny, over to you.
Yes, good news. So the LAA rally will be going ahead on the 3rd to the 5th of September at Sywell, so we can all descend on the airfield with our polished and buffed machines and feel like the world is coming back to normal again. And I know I'm really looking forward to it, and I'm sure Ed is as well. And of course, the LAA are one of the supporters of Fly Live, and for the 5 days of this event, they're going to do a better than half price membership deal for new members. All you've got to do is email office@laa.uk.com and quote Fly Live, and you can get hold of that offer. So be quick, and we will post that in the comments so people get the link.
That's a really great deal. If you haven't ever thought about joining LAA, now is the time, because the association has a lot to offer.
So what's that offer again?
It's a membership for £30. So I think the normal membership is £65. And Steve Slater said he wanted to do something special for the week of Fly Live. So it's LAA membership if you're new to LAA for just £30.
Wow, amazing.
Yep.
Amazing. Okay, so that appears to be it for the news tonight. We're expecting a whole bunch of news tomorrow. We have Sun and Fun opens tomorrow, so there'll be a whole load of people showing everybody their polished widgets and making all sorts of claims that we'll bring you news about. Do we have Ivy, or is Ivy not here yet? Let's go to Learn to Fly Week.
Okay.
Uh-oh, Johnny, it's just us.
It's just us, yes.
It's terrifying. So what have we got to talk about first? So it's all about learning to fly, isn't it?
Yeah, so we will be publishing the Learning to Fly guide for 2021 and 2022 today. So once that's live, you'll get an email with a link to view it. And I think Ed and I are just going to talk through some of the basics in terms of how many hours do you need, what kind of medical, what exams do you have to go through, and what type of licenses are there.
Yeah.
So I think it's worth starting with just saying that throughout the whole process of becoming a pilot and wanting to become a pilot, it's all about you. Think about yourself and what you want. Don't let anybody else try and drive you in a certain direction.
Yeah, that's very true. And you need to decide what you want to learn to fly. So is it going to be Group A fixed wing aeroplanes, or are you interested in microlights? And obviously there's two different types of microlight. You'll have seen when you hear the word microlight, you often think of flex wings, which are the pod underneath the kind of the microlight, the hang glider style wing. But there's also 3-axis microlights, which are, to all intents and purposes, look just like regular aeroplanes. Quite a lot of those are just as capable, often more so, sometimes faster, just they're lighter aircraft. So really, you just need to decide what you want to go for. And you might even go, hey, I'll learn rotary and go off and fly a helicopter. And obviously, you might choose gyroplanes, or you may go no engine at all for me. So you may go gliding and pick one of the many gliding schools around the UK.
Yes, and it's also worth thinking ahead of yourself. If you, for example, I did an NPPL back in 2008, and I'm now at the stage of I've transferred that to a LAPL, and I want to convert that to a PPL. So there's a bit of work involved in taking the next step, because I want to get my instructor rating and help teach people to fly. So looking back then, had I known that I wanted to be an instructor 12, 13 years later, it might not have been the course that I'd have chosen. So it's worth just thinking, stepping back and thinking, am I going to take this any further than just a hobby?
Yeah, and I think when we were figuring out the numbers earlier, was it we said 30 hours for a LAPL and 45 hours for a full PPL, wasn't it?
Correct.
Yeah.
It was, yeah. So back then when I did mine, it was 35 for an MPPL. So the straight conversion to a LAPL was pretty easy. I'm in the process now of having done a 10-hour conversion course to convert it to a PPL, and I'm now just waiting to book my skills test with Phil Matthews up at Cotswold Aero Club at Gloucester Airport, and then I need to relearn. Well, I am relearning how to use a whiz wheel, how to measure on a map with my thumb when I'm diverting. So yeah, it in a sense it's a good thing, because it's making me relearn some skills that I have completely lost.
I did a skills test last year, and I revalidated with Phil because I hadn't flown in a while, and it is really fun to think about returning to flying, and that's something that gets touched on in the Learn to Fly guide as well, because it might be that you took a PPL quite a long time ago. Sometimes people gravitate away from flying because of family circumstances and things that change, but there's nothing to stop you coming back, and there's lots of schools that will help you. They'll look at what training you need and what you need to do to get flying again. So,
yeah, absolutely. And of course, there's a breadth of things you can do once you've got your PPL. So you can add tailwheel ratings, you can do aerobatics, you can do all sorts of things. Ed, what ratings have you added?
Really, when I learned to fly, I just learned to fly because I love making holes in the sky. And I did some aerobatics. I had some instruction from a friend on flying aeros, but that was kind of before there was a requirement to have a rating to do it. That you can obviously go out and get. You can do the AOPA course, or there's a bunch of teaching for aerobatics that you can go to a whole number of schools for. I've never added a an IMC or an instrument rating, and I learnt on tailwheel, so I never had to actually do that as a skills conversion. So I was checking out my logbook today, and it's nearly 30 years since I logged my first trial lesson back in 1991. And I basically saved furiously, did my PPL at Clacton Aero Club in 3 weeks during the summer holidays from school in 1994. And I found that learning did, lots of people spread learning over time, but I did it in 3 weeks. And I think you can pick a course where residential or where you're residential, and or you can obviously just drip in and out. If you try and keep the training intensive and focused, then you'll keep your skills up and you'll get things done a lot quicker. And I think I did mine in the 3 weeks, and I think it was about 41 hours. So and I went to Clacton just because I'd seen an article in Flyer, and I really wanted to learn on Super Cubs. What about you, Johnny?
Yeah, I did my PPL over the course of about 3 or 4 weeks with Aeros at Gloucester Airport back in 2008. Since then I've was taking friends in, Cessnas and Pipers. And then one day I saw Citabria and I thought, oh, that looks interesting. So I gave that a go, and that opened up. It was like a bit of an epiphany moment for me in terms of thinking of what I could do with my flying. It opened up farm strips, and not that you can't go into farm strips in a Cessna or a Piper, but it's just more of a dynamic, interesting aeroplane. And of course it goes upside down as well.
Yes. Yeah. So have you, and obviously there's not forgetting that once you've learned to fly, you just keep kind of adding to the capabilities that you do. And obviously you might choose to go outside the club system then and buy an aeroplane, or be part of a group and join a group to fly. And Johnny, you share a RV6 with your dad?
Yes, I do. And looking on the internet, even Facebook nowadays, you can see what is on offer. It could be a quarter share in a gorgeous Cirrus, or it could be a 20th share in a Cub. And you can look across the whole spectrum of what's available, and there is something basically for everybody, regardless of who you are and your circumstances. There is a way of flying in a more cost-effective manner than perhaps renting from a club.
I think it's really important that once you have learned to fly, and this is one of the reasons why the LAA is really good, is once you've learned to fly, you need to keep your eyes open and take the opportunities that are available to you, because while the clubs do a great job of getting you trained and getting you capable and are there to hire you aeroplanes, you will achieve much more if you've got a little bit more freer access to an aeroplane. And there's a lot of fun in meeting other pilots and operating with those people, and just those learning experiences that come along from being in that kind of bigger world. I know that, and I've been based at the same strip now for 33 years now, something like that. And it's just remarkable. It's just such a great world. Everyone kind of keeps everyone's skills kind of up. We all take the mickey out of each other, but that environment is really good for just keeping you motivated and keeping you going and wanting you to achieve more. You're based at Calcott, aren't you?
Yeah, we're based at a small grass strip near Bryce Norton, and I've just seen a couple of comment that came up previously saying aerobatics is not for me. Well, you can find out more about that tomorrow, because we've got Greeners from Ultimate High on, farm stripping is something that, again, it opens up more opportunities. If you look on a traditional chart and you're not yet into flying, you'll just look at where the airports are, and they're few and far between, and they're closing every day, which is one problem. But then once you start looking at farm strips, you can really take advantage of them and visit places with so much more ease. You can fly down to Bolthead and walk into Salcombe, or you can fly up to Ledbury and go for a walk into Much Markel and go to the cider press. Not that you drink anything, but yeah, farm stripping it's one of those things that it harks back to the old great days of aviation.
Obviously, talking about the whole strip environment is that going back to where we were talking about how you kind of start out and what decisions you might want to make. You might find that some airfields near to you might be larger airfields. They'll be all hard surface, probably tower controlled, but you'll also find that there's some other airfields that you might choose to operate from or learn from that are grass and just a little bit lower down on the busyness spectrum, and that can influence the way you learn. Some people who learn at smaller places find bigger airports intimidating. Some people who learn at big airports, conversely, think that grass strips are scary. So there's a whole bunch of little questions that you need to ask yourself, and obviously you need to look at what is available around you. One of the things the Learn to Fly Guide will tell you is that we've got a listing of over 300 clubs and schools in the UK. So it's worth looking at what's in your area, and then, like Johnny says, it's what's in your area. What do you want to? How do you want to learn? What do you want to learn on? And you build that picture, and then you find a school and go out and visit them, and they'll be really pleased to see you. You'll get a trial lesson, and that'll start you on your journey. And there are never any real right answers. It's what you feel comfortable doing. So.
Yeah, and there was a good comment from Dan Smith there about going from Group A to microlighting. You know, people's circumstances change, your desires change, and there are microlighting might be the thing for you if you've been flying on a PPL and flying Cessnas and Pipers for 10 years. It could open up more opportunities. It could enable you to keep flying if you potentially have a medical problem. So there's always just as much fun to be had when not necessarily downgrading, but going for a lesser license of some description.
As we know, the things are changing with microlights, and the 600 kilogram class is on the horizon, and that's going to bring a whole raft of capability of airplanes with remarkable capabilities along into the microlighting world. So a microlight could be a real great license for a lot of people, really.
Yeah, I think the future of microlighting could put general GA fleets to some kind of shame in terms of the type of aircraft and how they look.
It's a really exciting time. So I'm just looking. Someone said, "I'm learning at Elstree. Everything is scary." Well, I think that's the thing. When you start learning to fly, everything seems scary. You get in an airplane. Your instructor takes you for your first flight. You look at the panel, and the panel looks scary. But you do a few hours, and you realize that actually you get to know it quite quickly. And then you add things like talking on the radio, and then you wonder, I'm not sure I can do two things at once. But you soon actually find that you can talk on the radio and fly the airplane at the same time. And then you do, and then you've got those two things mastered, and then your instructor will say, well, now you need to navigate. And it's like 3 things. Now things are really tough. But it all comes naturally. It's like eating an elephant. You do it one step at a time, and you'll develop your skills. I can hear Dave laughing at me in the background.
Yeah. I've got no experience of doing that, and that's where consistency comes in just being able to fly on a more regular basis to keep those new skills fresh and keep practicing with a whiz wheel, which I'm at the moment. I'm as I said, very close to doing a PPL test. I'm playing around with a whiz wheel on Flight Simulator and just trying to get used to it.
I use one as a coaster. Don't disrespect your learning tools, kids. So, but and when you do, and don't be put off. Obviously, learning to fly comes with a whole bunch of ground exams. And a whole bunch of navigation tech and things like that. That is a bit old school. It's like Johnny says. Johnny describes something called a whiz wheel, which is a calculator that you can draw lines on and make all sorts of calculations to plot your wind speed and all sorts of other things and the effect on your track and stuff like that. But when you have actually qualified, there is amazing array of apps and navigation tools available to you on your phone, and systems in the aircraft that you can't use when you're learning. But once you are free to learn, you'll have the same feeling of it's like when you took your driving test, and you felt you were always kind of under the watchful eye of your instructor. But when you're free to when you've got your license and you get in the airplane and go off and fly, there's a whole bunch of kit and basically technology that will help you and will make it a whole bunch more fun than some of the stuff that you have to go through when you learn. But that's just how it is when you're getting your license.
Yeah, and it is good to learn some of those old school skills. And with all this new technology, I think it needs to be brought into the syllabus and embraced by instructors and schools in a more wholesome way, because it's a companion to what you do. It helps you navigate if you're not necessarily using SkyDemon or ForeFlight whilst you're learning to fly, but having it there as a backup. Why would you not? That's
it. Yeah, I just looking at one of the comments. Darren Lewington says radio work is easy. Don't wait until you're in an aeroplane to learn it. That's really true, Darren. That's along with some of the ground school stuff. Obviously, there are things that you can. There's things that you can start hitting the books for and revising, and you'll find that quite a few things are covered by Civil Aviation, Civil Aircraft Association documents and things, and they're all freely accessible online. So there's CAP 413, which is all the stuff to do with radio telephony, and that's you can learn a whole bunch of stuff just through downloading that. So, but RT, I don't know how. Do you find? Oh, Johnny's got his radio, and obviously listening to the radio as well. Listen to the radio calls and just respond to them yourself. It does get easier, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. If you get one of these, you can pick them up pretty cheap on eBay. It's a good tool for tuning into your local airfield and just listening to what's going on. Not necessarily tuning into the high level airways, because that might not be as appropriate for a PPL, but you still get an understanding of how people talk, the phraseology, the cadence of how they speak. So it's worth doing.
That's it. And RT is it's a whole bunch of phrases. It's like learning to speak to your friends, but just using a real small set of phrases. And actually, once you've kind of mastered those, it's just having a very formal conversation with air traffic and things like that. And it can seem intimidating at the time, but actually, if you just treat it naturally, you'll find it a whole lot easier. So.
Yeah, there's some good comments coming in. Don't try and learn R2 through YouTube.
Unless you're planning on flying in America, Max Pemberton. Yeah, you're right. There's a lot of comments. There's a lot of flying videos from America. Dave Disney says, don't forget to mention the Skyway code. There's obviously a new version of the code out, and it is brilliant. That's like the highway code, but for flying, and the latest version's out. Again, it's free to download, and that is a really fantastic resource to have at your fingertips. So I'm just looking for that. But Darren says, I learned RT as a trainee controller in half a day, and it gave me the confidence when I actually plugged in. So I don't know about you, but this seems like an awfully long time, Johnny.
Yes, I thought 10 minutes ago.
I thought someone would be shouting in my ear way before this. Have they all gone to sleep backstage or something?
I think that maybe they have, yes. But anyway, this week we've got more learning to fly sections coming up. We'll be looking at helicopters. We'll be looking at aerobatics. We'll be looking at even warbirds, hopefully towards the end of the week. So we'll give you a full breadth of what you can do with your flying careers.
Yeah. Have you done any? I'm just thinking of all the other things that you can fly with, within the flying world. I've done a little bit of gyrocopter flying, done a little bit of gliding. Have you done anything else with your flying?
I've been in a helicopter once. That was on my wedding day, though, so I was in the back. I've done a bit of sort of more high performance aerobatics in extras and XA42, which is it's fun for 10 or 15 minutes, but it's not the kind of thing I'd want to commit too much money to, because I've suffered with nausea doing aerobatics before. We'll talk more about that tomorrow with Greeners. But no, there's still an awful lot that I need to get out there and tick boxes off.
Yeah, but really the basic, just the joy of flying and going out, getting in an airplane, and I'm just looking out the window at the moment at what is a beautiful flying evening, and just being able to jump in the airplane, fly around till the sun sets, is one of the most liberating and kind of freeing things that you can learn skills to go and do. And it is, if you're thinking about doing it, then get out there and do it. There's never been a better time. Just take your steps, go and find your school, use the Learn to Fly guide, and just do it. So
yeah, as we say, we'll share the link to the Learn to Fly guide as soon as it's out later this evening, so you can download it, read through it. There's bits about all sorts of commercial careers, military careers, all weird and wonderful things that you could do as a commercial pilot, from crop spraying to display flying and all those kinds of things. So just like the rest of life, there is a bountiful array of things that you can do in an airplane.
Going back to YouTube for RT, Dave Lee says, I actually found YouTube quite useful when I was learning RT, and he recommends a couple of UK-based YouTubers, Plain Old Ben and The Flying Reporter, both great video makers. And yeah, if you watch those, you'll definitely get a flavour for RT and flying from that. Are there any other good YouTubers you can think of?
Well, I was just going to say there has been a bit of comment recently about the propensity for US pilots to make their own phraseology up slightly, and then, chop up call signs and readbacks and that sort of thing. And it's I think we do much less of it over here. But yeah, YouTubers, God, there's tons that I follow.
Ben Atkinson is really good.
Ben Atkinson is very good. Yes, he's got a very interesting platform, from the fact that he flies 3 different types of microlights. He's into farm strips. He's doing all sorts of great things. He's very good with audio and video. If you're interested in learning how to get yourself set up in the cockpit from that point of view, we did a Flyer Club exclusive chat with him about recording cockpit audio, which Flyer Club members can watch, and gave us some really good insights in how that kind of thing works. And then obviously there are some great US content producers out there, like the likes of Trent Palmer, Corey Robin. Yeah, you could go on and on.
Mike Patey, back to work.
Of course. Yes.
And obviously, looking at those guys who fly with cameras in the cockpit, there's I know quite a few people find if you liaise with your club and talk to your instructor, then having a camera in the cockpit recording your lessons is a good way to go through and look at what you did. You can always go and review your learning pointers, and also see where things may have not gone quite as well as they should have done. So that's actually quite a good thing. If your club will allow it, then having a camera along, don't let it distract you, but that can add to your learning experience. Absolutely.
It's all about just making whoever aware, the club or the instructor, that you're doing it for the purposes of reviewing what you've done, because it's really beneficial. It's like having a replay button on a video game. You can go back and watch any point and see what mistakes you may or may not have made. You'll notice things that you didn't notice when you were sat there. So it is a really useful thing to do, but it's also a good discipline to get into the habit of finding a sort of checklist of getting it all set up so it doesn't distract you when you're flying.
That's it, yeah. Alan Forbes says in the comments, does anyone else think that controllers could slow down a bit? I appreciate they're under pressure, but sometimes the speed is intimidating. That's true, Alan. And it's when you go to some places in the States and you hear some of the real big airport controllers, it's like it's just almost impossible to sometimes figure it out. But yeah, no, it's again, with time sometimes comes your understanding, and it can seem as though, some people speak really, really fast. Yeah, it does. It comes back to just being out and about and listening to it. If you can get hold of a radio or watching YouTube videos, the more information you can soak up
from elsewhere, and the internet's the perfect resource to do that, the better it will make you a pilot.
Yes, Darren Lewington, he should know, says ask a controller to say again 3 times, and he or she will always slow down. That's a really good point, Darren. So
yeah.
Blimey. So this seems like the world's longest 10 minutes.
It does indeed. Yeah, so I think what have we got coming up next?
Well, we've got a chat with Ivy McIver from Cirrus Aircraft, which will be exciting because Ivy's always a bit of a live wire. And then
we'll be hearing
from the green room that managed to make
Bristol Ground School.
Yeah.
And then I'll be talking to Ben Wyatt, who is a microlight pilot and air traffic controller. So we'll be talking to him about RT.
Excellent. Well, there's probably some tips to pick up there. So yeah, maybe if you're thinking of learning to fly, maybe you set yourself a challenge this week that by the end of Fly Alive, you will have at least learnt your phonetic alphabet.
Yes. Yeah, and downloaded the Learn to Fly guide, which we will, as I've said before, we'll share the link as soon as it's out.
Perfect. Yes. Right. I think we're going to be relieved from duty.
Hey,
hooray!
Ivy, say something.
Hello, how are you guys?
There.
Good evening, as it were. It's afternoon where I am, but evening where you are. So,
how is Knoxville, Tennessee?
Knoxville, Tennessee is gorgeous, and I think it's appropriate to start off the session by letting you guys know that I was almost late joining you because yesterday morning I was invited on an impromptu airplane camping trip. So a Cub, a Cirrus, and a Caravan all flew over to a grass strip just east of Greenville, and which is about an hour from here by Cirrus, and we all met up over there and grilled and hung out and sung songs and listened to music and had a couple beverages and camped overnight and then departed this morning. It was a very nice little thing to be able to do with flying yourself places. That is
a fun sounding combination, that. And fun, the fun and joy of flight is one thing that the Cirrus life is all about, isn't it, Ivy?
Yeah, it kind of is. That's why I thought, oh man, that'll be a great way to kind of start the conversation.
Is it just me, or can everyone hear? Does Ivy sound like Stephen Hawking with a computer that's a bit low on power?
Oh no, do I?
Or is that just me?
Ivy's connection is a little bit slow.
I think it's like really garbled. Let's see if we can fix that. If Ivy was an air traffic controller, I'd be asking her to say again a few times.
How's that? Is that better?
That's a bit better. It may just be your connection speed. I think the audio is good, but
yeah.
Okay.
Ivy, so tell us, how long ago did you learn to fly?
Yes. Okay. Can you guys hear me okay now? Or is it just garbage connection? I'm going to try one more thing. Okay. Is that any better?
It's a little bit better. It's a little bit better.
Should we give it a go?
Okay.
Let's give it a go, yeah.
All right.
Okay. So obviously the Cirrus Life. Tell us a little bit about what the Cirrus Life stands for.
So the Cirrus Life is really kind of all about using the airplane to do fun things and have adventures and meet up with people. I'm looking at the looks on your faces in this I'm wondering if this is not. Can you not hear me? Okay.
You keep going, because I'm looking at the comments and everybody else can hear you perfectly clearly out there in the whole world. It's just us in this little room that we can't hear you. So if you could just send it to us and just
okay.
Carry on, and remember to tell everyone how great we are.
Okay. Trust me, Ian and Ed are fantastic. Okay, so this Cirrus life is sort of a little bit less about the airplane and more about what you can do with the airplane. So I know a lot of people, when they look at airplanes, they look at, you know, all of the specs and they put everything on a spreadsheet. And really, it's the intangible part of what you can't explain on a spreadsheet that really defines the Cirrus life. So hopping in your Cirrus and, you know, flying up to Scotland for a weekend, or, you know, flying to a private grass strip to have lunch, or crossing the channel and going over to Le Touquet for you know, a bike ride around the town sort of thing. So, you know, really the Cirrus life is very much less about the actual Cirrus and more where the Cirrus can bring you and what that enables.
And learning to fly with Cirrus. Tell us about the network in the UK. I think there's one main centre and there's 9 CSIPs all over the UK.
Yep. Yes, that's right. So there's one what we call a Cirrus Training Centre, or CTC, and that's in Sywell. Yep. And then there's actually 9 independent CSIPs all over the UK. So they're located Cambridge, Birmingham, Biggin Hill, Sywell, Denham. I think that is where they're all located, though I might have missed one. But we actually have a locator on our website. It's cirrusaircraft.com/find us, cleverly. And if you go up just to the cirrusaircraft.com website and click on the Find Us button, it'll come up with a locator, and it'll show you not just where you can learn how to fly, but also where you can get your Cirrus services serviced, and where you can actually purchase a Cirrus on for you.
Okay.
Well, we think you probably said something about aviation just then. From what we
I could hear that fine. It might be your connection.
Maybe it is just me. Yeah. I don't know.
So what's the best, Ivy, for you? What's the best thing about flying yourself around in the Cirrus?
So, you know, for me, it's really sort of the freedom about it. So yesterday was the great example. It was, you know, over breakfast, someone texted and said, hey, can you be available to, you know, fly to this strip overnight? There's a couple of people flying over there. And I'm like, yeah, yes, I can, you know. What you're seeing on the screen is a couple from London that my husband and I are friends with, and we picked up a Cirrus in London and actually flew up to Scotland for the weekend. And so, you know, they had never been in a small plane. They're non-aviation folks, but, you know, the ability just to kind of say, yeah, we're just going to go out to the airport and, you know, take whatever you like, and we'll just walk out to the airplane and hop in, and we can leave whenever we like. And we can sort of have the flexibility to not just fly straight from here to Inverness, but, you know, do a little bit of sightseeing, and we did a low pass over Loch Ness and all that stuff. So it's just really fun, you know. We had no limitations on how much scotch we could bring back.
Ed, I'm going to have to leave you to talk to Ivy, because literally, for whatever reason, I can't understand a word you're saying, Ivy, and it's not just your American accent.
I was going to say, is it my accent?
It might, yeah. Your internet may be a little bit slow, but that's fine. We'll work with it. So, so obviously, so if I'm looking to buy a Cirrus in the UK, what would I need to be? Who would I need to talk to?
Yeah, so Michael Wright is our Cirrus UK sales agent, and it's actually cirrusaircraft.co.uk. And so Michael is actually co-located with the CTC, so you can learn to fly there as well. But Michael can take care of all your needs, and you can actually go on a demo flight with him. He's got a demonstrator over there, and he'll kind of walk you through all of the ins and outs.
And Michael is a really neat guy. I bet you may or may not know, he's just treated himself to a Yak 3 warbird.
Interesting. Okay, that is quite a different animal than a Cirrus.
That's it. He's a good guy.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
That is very cool. Yeah. So I bought. So if I buy my Cirrus, where can I take it in the UK to get that serviced?
So RGV Aviation in Gloucestershire. How'd I do?
Oh yeah, Gloucestershire.
Is that close?
That was good American pronunciation.
Okay. So yeah, RGV does all the maintenance, and it's reasonably centrally located, so you can kind of get your service there. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like you say, the ability to travel and fly, and the UK has some pretty friendly airspace. The UK has some friendly airspace, and there's more friendly airspace over in Europe. We've got available 100 LL at reasonable prices, not quite American prices, but because you've done a bit of flying over here, haven't you?
Yeah, exactly. It was funny. I was a little intimidated coming over to the UK and coming over and flying in Europe, because it seems like it would be really complicated. Just going from country to country and having to understand all the different nuances of air traffic control. But I found that, especially in the UK, it's actually pretty straightforward, right? So there's a lot of tools that will help you with your flying and your flight planning and things like that. So you can use Rocket Route or Garmin Pilot or SkyDemon, and that will help you sort of navigate, figure out where your route needs to be, brief your weather, file your flight plan, all of that sort of stuff. And then the air traffic control, I actually found to be very friendly. Maybe that was my American accent, and they were worried what I might do. But in general, I thought that ATC was just super, super friendly. And there's tons of airports. There's tons of airports everywhere in the UK. To me, it was very straightforward and easy to fly around in the UK because everyone speaks English. It was very straightforward to get fuel. There's lots of airports. And a lot of different places you could go. But even going elsewhere, coming back into the UK, customs was quite easy. And it's just, really flexible.
So we just said there's a question in the comments. Having flown in the Clearer Cloud asks, having flown in the UK or EU, what's a sensible runway distance or surface for the Cirrus Life kind of experience, or flying your Cirrus? What would you recommend?
In meters, not feet.
That is a great question. No, that is a great question. So our company flight operations manual actually states that all of our company pilots should look for 2,500 feet and longer. And that's just, or you have to get an exception from the chief pilot. So typically that's how we kind of operate as corporate pilots. If we look for runways that are 2,500 feet or longer. I know that I have a waiver to fly in shorter strips, and as do several other pilots, and it's quite doable to fly the Cirrus into 2,000 feet, or greater. Cirrus does great on grass. That's where I just came from. We landed on a grass strip, but in my flying around in Europe, it seems like there's a lot more grass strips than there are, at least public use, kind of regular grass strips, than there are in the US. There's lots of private grass in the US, but Cirrus lands great on grass, great on dirt. I would say probably you definitely want 2,500 feet or longer on a grass strip, unless it's super hard, but it always depends on the condition. But 2,500 is kind of a good ballpark minimum.
Okay. And I'm just checking. Someone else has asked the question: does Cirrus do you run any kind of fractional ownership schemes? I mean, is it what are the kind of purchasing opportunities? Are there? Is that what would a typical buyer kind of what options are available to them?
Yeah, so I am not aware of any fractional programs in the UK. I know, folks will buy them in a partnership, kind of go, 2, 3, 4 people in at a time. There's also rental available at the Cirrus Training Center, and I don't know if there are if there's any sort of flying club, but there very well may be.
Yes, yeah. And what's the typical? A few people are taking guesses at price range. I know that the top of the range Cirrus tops out at a smidge over $1 million, but what's entry level Cirrus?
So you're about $500,000 for a basic SR20. You're really in the high 400s, low 500s, depending on how you equip it.
Yeah. And that's even the base level aeroplane is Cirrus perspective, isn't it?
It is, and the SR20 is a great airplane. It's a Lycoming engine. It runs about 150 knots, and it's got about a 700 or 800 nautical mile range. I mean, it's a great flying airplane. It's perspective plus avionics. It's you can get 10 or 12 inch MFT and PFD screens in it. So it's the same fuselage, same seats, same cabin experience as the 22 and the 22T.
Yes, and so obviously the SR20 is the 210 horsepower Lycoming IO390. The SR22 is the 6-cylinder Continental, isn't it?
Yes, correct. It's the IO 550.
Okay, and you can get that in normally aspirated or turbocharged form. So it's SR22 or 22T, isn't it?
Yes, that's correct. Yep. And really, I think what's so cool about the Cirrus is I think a lot of people kind of look at it as a fancy airplane, but you can really use it as an adventure mobile. And I think, to me, that's the most alluring part of the Cirrus is that, you can fold down the back seats, you can put bikes in there, you can put surfboards in there, small surfboards. You can put your skis, your fishing gear, your hiking gear, and just, your camping stuff and just go have adventures. And it's a very nice sort of family of airplanes. So you can get into the SR20. Lots of people learn how to fly in the SR20. A very nice, honest, docile flying airplane. And then it's a really smooth transition into the 22 or the 22T because the handling characteristics are the same. It's just, I think it's a great airplane to sort of get into, learn how to fly, and then actually really use, right? I love seeing people actually.
Oh, and we've lost Ivy.
Ivy's gone.
Well, there we go. The Cirrus life is good when you have better internet.
Oh my God, that is just so weird.
I hopefully got the gist of that interview. Ivy, when she's got really good internet, is a really good interview.
Ivy's back. I can see Ivy.
Is she returned? I wasn't aware she's back.
No, maybe she's not back.
No, I think you're imagining that.
Yeah.
Wow. This is exciting, isn't it? Cool. Ian, you've flown Cirruses quite a bit, haven't you?
I've flown a ton of Cirruses. Well, not as many as Ivy, obviously, but I have flown a whole bunch of Cirruses over the years. And I have to say, I mean, it's the difference between a brand new Cirrus today, which obviously I'm lucky enough to get to fly from time to time in the US mainly, and what we call the average GA aircraft is just huge. And I think if anyone hasn't experienced the Cirrus, Frank, I can't afford one, but clearly there are many people who can, and it is definitely worth going. They do an absolutely fantastic job of integrating all of the systems into the airplane. They've really thought deeply about how pilots sit there and how they were. And I think a lot of that comes to the fact that, pretty much all of the engineers there fly on a regular basis.
Yeah.
And so whether it's the safety systems, they work really well with Garmin as well to make sure that the perspective, which everyone else calls G1000 NXI, I don't think maybe will say be very happy about me saying that, but it's very, very well integrated, very comfortable, very high performance aeroplane. And I remember I've been on a couple of flights in Europe. I jumped in with a guy called Philip Pullman, who runs a flying school called Echelon Air down at Biggin Hill, where you can rent a Cirrus or learn to flying a Cirrus. We jumped in the airplane, popped over to La Rochelle, grabbed some fuel, then took off again, went to Barcelona, and sort of that was in less than a day. And it was, I think the interesting thing about them is they offer extremely relaxed touring in a very comfortable environment. You don't, if I take my 182, I could do the same flight. It would take me quite a lot longer, but you do get out a little bit more tired. As much as I love my 182, and I hope she's not listening to me when I'm saying this, the experience of flying a 182 over a long distance is very different to flying something like a Cirrus or which is really a very well-developed aircraft. As a company, they develop things on a regular basis. Every year there's something new, and every few years there's quite a big iteration. But every year there's at least a small iteration. So they do a great job.
And it's interesting that you talk about that. It answers a question that Clear of Cloud asks in the comments. He says, "What does Ivy think that Cirrus bring to the touring party as opposed to the stereotypical four-seater?" I guess you would say that it's the fact that Cirrus have entered the market with real clear thinking, and a lot of other regular four-seaters, some of those that are still in production today, are real legacy designs, aren't they? And I guess that's what makes a Cirrus such a comfortable tourer.
Yeah, I mean it's an airplane that you can fly on 3-4 hour legs, not feel tired, and if you're doing 180 knots, that takes you quite a long way. It's a very, very accomplished touring aircraft.
Yeah,
absolutely. And they, how can I put this? There's an awful lot of thought that goes into the interior design and the way the way everything's, the ergonomics of it and how it's laid out. So it's a very, very well developed airplane.
Yeah, and interesting. So just to counter all the points on costs as well, Robert Woodham says talking Cirrus costs is likely to put potential pilots off. Surely, actually, Robert, I disagree, because obviously not everyone has different budgets to spend, but as the newer Cirruses work their way down the age kind of bracket and end up in kind of the resale market, then private pilots get to buy very, very capable aeroplanes at quite a saving over new price. And certainly seeing some of what Cirrus has been building now for 20 odd years.
Yeah, more than that now, 21, 22 years.
More than that. And so, and you look at the first generation Cirruses as used purchases, and they offer real fantastic capability to people. So, and especially if you upgrade with new avionics.
Yeah, I mean, aviation's a broad church, isn't it? I mean, there are people, and I'd include myself there, who would happily go out and buy a half share, quarter share, fifth share in a Champ for peanuts, effectively, or relatively, I should say. And you can get some really good, really, really low cost flying out of it. But if you want to, if there are people who buy TBMs, there are people who buy citations, there are people who buy all sorts of things who would look at a Cirrus and go, "Oh my God, that's really cheap."
Yeah.
There is effectively the kind of my little rule of thumb really is that ideally you should own the airplane that you can afford to fly without thinking about it too much. If that happens to be a really used and tired but loved AX3 or something that costs you 15, 20, 25 pound a year, an hour even, then absolutely fantastic. You can have some amazing fun. That's brilliant. If you take your AX3 budget and you go, well, actually, you know what? I want a Seneca 5 and I can only afford to fly it an hour and a half a year and nothing needs to go wrong, otherwise I'm doomed, then you're doing aviation wrong. Aviation is about going out, whether you're flying for smiles per mile or smiles per minute, doesn't really matter. You need to be doing it in a way that's accessible to you. And for some people, not me, that's a TBM. And for other people, that's a Cirrus. And for other people, that's an AX3. And, I'm kind of happy to be able to do it at any level, really, and that's really what we need to aim at, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But
I think it's a shame we lost Ivy.
It is a shame we lost Ivy.
The good news is that we've got Ivy in pre-record in another session. So we've got a 5-minute and a 10-minute interview with Ivy. I know back at the end of last year, because obviously she's the lead for the SR range, but she actually did her transition to the SF50 Vision Jet, and that was a really good chat that I had with her. So that's coming up later in the week.
Yeah, I've done quite a bit of flying with Ivy over the years, and she's an extremely good and very, very chilled pilot. Whenever you fly a formation with Ivy, she's one of like the most chilled. My only thing is she needs to listen to music. She's like, she turns a what do they call it? SX radio?
The SM radio, the Cirrus.
The Cirrus, that's it. Yeah, Cirrus radio. Put some bluegrass or something on if you're flying over the Appalachians.
As she's not here to defend herself, I can't allow the audience to believe, you making the audience believe that she listens to bluegrass, because she'll hate that.
There's nothing wrong with bluegrass, I can tell you. When flying over
Ivy we've done a whole bunch of stuff with her, and she's a fantastic rep for the Cirrus Piston, and is a really tremendous formation flyer. If you look at the cover of the new Learn to Fly guide, you'll see Ivy in a Cirrus on the cover of that, which was from when we were last out in America, which was Florida in February 2020, just before COVID.
Yeah, and with her husband, she owns a Citabria or a Super Decathlon. I can't remember which. But
I think it's a Citabria, isn't it? On slightly bigger tyres. She's a backcountry girl at heart.
Yeah, excellent. Good old. Have we got Dave back? Has Dave got volume yet?
I don't know. Have I? Can you hear me?
I don't know.
We can hear you. Yes. It might be a good time to check out and see whether can the audience hear Dave. Can we just run a poll? Put your hands up. Yes, I can hear Dave. No, turn Dave off. So.
Okay. Can anyone hear Dave? Interesting. Yeah. PB Vincent has just put a thing. We'd be interested if Cirrus had some serious competition. You're right. I mean, do you remember the? It started off life as the Columbia, didn't it? And then it became. What did it become after the Columbia? Was it the Corvallis TT?
That's right.
Something? And then what did it become after that? What did Cessna call it when they bought it?
The TT, isn't it? Just a TT.
Yeah, something like that. Dave, it sounds like I can hear you.
Yes.
Excellent. Well, as that's done and dusted, and Dave's back, is it time to move on to the next segment?
I think it is time to move on to the next segment. Absolutely. What is the next segment anyway? Is it Bristol Ground School? Excellent. Hello. So earlier on, I spoke to Alex Whittingham. Alex runs Bristol Ground School. He's been around the industry for ages. He's got a fantastic reputation for plain speaking and helping people, and has been doing that for years and years and years. So I spoke to Alex about this kind of the general questions that people have got about professional flight training. Because I pretty much could guess that Alex was going to be good value, and he certainly was. So I hope you enjoy this. Hello, Alex. Good to see you again. How are you doing?
Hello, Ian. I'm fine. You?
Yeah, very good, thank you. So, Alex, you run Bristol Ground School, which is a theoretical knowledge training provider for people taking their ATPLs. But this little video is about the bigger subject. A lot of people coming into professional flight training want a kind of bigger overview, and I think it's fair to say that you've never been shy in making your views known. And while your views don't necessarily align with every single training provider out there, you've been known over the years for speaking your mind, should we say?
What are you saying?
So let's just rattle through some questions that are kind of general questions for the whole thing. Here we're talking about ab initio, if you like, to CPLIR. We're not talking just about any particular part of it. So first question, how much does it cost?
Well, the answer to that, of course, is it depends. So the absolute cheapest routes that you can take, which might not be for everybody, you can spend less than £40,000 doing the whole thing. A typical spend from somebody doing the modular route would probably be in the order of 50,000, something like that, maybe a little bit more, a bit less, depending on the choices that they make. And there are other routes available. You can do what's called a multi-pilot license, or you can do an integrated course, and those can cost up to 120,000. So the short answer to your question is realistically between about 50 and 120,000 pounds, depending on the routes you take.
And how long is that going to take you to spend that money?
Depends on the routes you take. The course that I've referred to as integrated and the multi-pilot's license courses are courses where you go to one particular flight school and they give you a set of sunglasses and a nice uniform with stripes on it, and they take you from ab initio right the way through to getting your license, and it's all carefully structured and programmed to get you through in a relatively short time. And in this context, a relatively short time is somewhere between 15 and 18 months. It's very unusual to do it less than that, because even if you're going at it full chat, you need the time to do the flying, you need the time to do the ground school and stuff like that. Sometimes those courses extend. You know, undoubtedly the people who've been studying in the last year will have their training will have to have dragged out, so it might take them a couple of years or so to do, but that's exceptional circumstances. The other path is to do what we call a modular training, where the customer chooses specialist schools for each particular phase of their training. And each phase is a module. So the first module, for instance, would be a private pilot's license. The second module would be ATPL theory. And then you do modules for the commercial skills test and modules for the instrument rating. And the advantage of that system, apart from cost, is that you can do it while you're working. You can fit it around your everyday life. So people who take that path, people who take that path tend to deliberately spread it out over a longer period, which is typically a minimum of 2 years, typically, but up to 4 or 5 years, depending on how their life is working out.
Okay, so I'm getting the trend of it depends coming along at the moment, which is interesting. Now, bearing in mind that your business is providing training, one of the training modules, the ground school, what do you say to people who come to you and go, should I go integrated or should I go modular?
Well, that's not all our business. And we do sell directly to customers doing modular ground school, but we also provide training material to quite a large number of schools throughout Europe, including many integrated schools. And I don't have a clear answer for you. The answer would depend on the individual circumstances. The integrated path is attractive because all the management of the course is done for you. You don't have to think about what's a good place to go. You don't have to do your own scheduling. You don't have to do your own planning. You don't have to take your own, well, there's an element of risk because there are some fairly dodgy flight schools out there as well. So you don't have to take the risk every time you make a choice. And it's ideally suited to somebody who's not working, who's perhaps come just straight out of school or perhaps straight out of university, and they have the funds to do it. And you can see the advantage to that, particularly when you compare it to the costs of sending someone to university. It's not a million miles away from the cost of an integrated course. So that would be a particular path. On the other hand, most of my customers are older. They've been out in the world. They've been working. They've had jobs. They have partners. They quite often are married and have children. And it's not appropriate for them to take 18 months off and go and do a complete course away from their family, away from their life. They try to work at the same time. So that exercise is going to take longer. So it depends very much on the circumstances, that in many cases, modular is the right path. So integrated is a short, ideally a snappy course. You don't have to think about it at all. They take you from beginning to end, but they charge you for it. Modular course is going to be longer. It's up to you to plan your course, but you are able to fit it around your work and your life, and it's likely to be much cheaper as well.
Okay. How do people choose a school? Any tips?
How do people choose a school? How should people choose a school? How do people choose a school? How do people choose a school? Unfortunately, is they often get overtaken by marketing, and that there's a lot of glossy marketing out there. The advantage of modular is that we get people who already started flying because they want to fly. So they will have gone down to the local aerodrome. they'll have started doing their private pilot's license, and probably it will have occurred to them as they were doing their license that they're really enjoying this, and why don't they go for this commercially? And they'll be changing careers sort of midlife. And that means that they're already in the flying system. So they tend to ask people, they might ask their instructor and say, I'm thinking of doing this commercially, how would I go about it? And then that you get quite valuable feedback, because the instructor is unlikely to have any skin in the game, and he's going to give, or she is going to give, relatively honest answers. Once you get beyond that and start to go out onto the internet, into social media, if you're intelligent, you can filter out the glossy marketing from honest recommendations. So how do people choose? Often they just get whacked by marketing. How should they choose? They should ask widely and take advice from people that don't have a commercial interest in the answer.
From one of your earlier answers, it's going to take between a year and 5 years to get your license and be employable. Given that the drive for this is to get a job, people aren't hiring very much at the moment. When should people start training to plan their careers?
Well, the answer is always with hindsight, that if you manage to arrive fully trained at a time when the hiring market booms, you've made some good choices, but you probably haven't made any informed choices. They're just chance. So it's very difficult to say you should train now or you shouldn't train now, because whatever you're doing, you're looking forward at least a year in the future. If you're asking me, is this a good time to start training now? Again, my answer would be it depends. If you're planning to emerge on the job market in a year's time, I think that you should perhaps give that a little bit of thought, because the aviation industry at the moment has been on its knees for the last year. And although there's lots of forecasts saying, it's going to expand, and hiring thousands of people and all the old pilots are retired, they're just guesses. They have no real idea. And if you'd asked people 6 months ago, they would have said, it'll take off in the summer. And now it doesn't look like it will. So predicting to come out as an employable candidate in a year's time, to me, seems a little bit chancy. If you're going 2, 3, 4 years' time, then to me, the risk is less, but you're moving further into the unknown. How could I put this? Certainly, the best time to start training is probably not when recruitment is at its peak. Let's put it that way, because there's always cyclical. And if it's absolutely at a peak, although everyone says, it's going to continue for tens of years, it goes up and down with the economic cycle.
The answer to many of the professional flight training questions are, it depends. And really, you need to do your research carefully, widely, and maybe have yourself a little plan A, B, and C along the way as well.
I would definitely agree with that. And I used to do presentations for some of the flight schools in the UK. And the cornerstone of that was, if somebody starts showing you adverts with pilots with uniforms on and sunglasses, all looking up at the sky like that, just walk away, because they're trying to sell you a concept, a dream, which is inevitably going to be overpriced. And if you take a more mature look at this, you'll find that there are better ways of doing this. Higher quality training in many cases. There used to be an argument that the integrated schools said, with best quality training and stuff, but it's just not borne out by the facts. And if you go onto the social media and look at the presentations from people like Ryanair, for instance, they are absolutely clear that as far as they can see, there is no difference in quality of output generally across Europe between integrated schools generally and modular schools generally. They say sometimes our best candidate is an integrated one, sometimes our best candidate is a modular one. There's no quality difference. Huge quality difference from school to school. I mean, you can get some very poor schools out there and some very good schools out there, but not from path to path.
To sum up, again, it depends. Do your research.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much for your time, Alex. I look forward to seeing you again at some stage in the future.
It's a pleasure. Thanks very much, Ian.
Hello. So thank you very much, Alex, for that. So just want to quickly sum up for anyone here who's thinking of going commercial or is planning it. There is no simple answer for people who want to go commercial. You have to do your research. You have to do your research thoroughly, trust but verify all of the time. Make sure you've got a plan A and a plan B. And because, as Alex says, the industry is cyclical, and if you wait until everything's at the peak before you learn to fly, you're always predicting what the market's going to be like when you finish. And it's probably going to take you somewhere between 18 months and 3 years to finish. And nobody knows what the world's going to be like in 18 months to 3 years. 18 months ago, we didn't have a clue where we'd be now. Certainly didn't expect to be doing Fly Alive across a across a whole platform I'd never even heard of back then. But anyway, that's it. So yeah, some really good advice from Alex there. If you need to watch it back, then please do on tomorrow's catch up. Thank you.
Excellent.
Anyone thinking? Ed, you can take this.
It's time for Fancy Hanger, that magic moment on a Thursday normally that we're sharing with you every day through a Fly Alive week. So today we've decided to go for the aeroplane that basically ticks a bunch of boxes. This is an aeroplane that maybe you can do a little bit of aeros with. It's good for touring. You can put some stuff in it. The cost of acquisition, all those kind of things. So this is a good ticker of all boxes. I don't know who's first. Who is first?
I believe it's Dave.
Oh, right. It's me
Dave.
first. Okay, well, there is only one aeroplane that is the perfect aeroplane, and that is, no, it's not the Luscombe. No, it's not the Luscombe. It's the Cap 10B. It's the Cap 10B. It's a side-by-side aircraft. It's an aerobatic aircraft, quite a competent aerobatic aircraft. It's actually quite roomy and comfortable for an aerobatic aircraft. You'd have no problem touring for two people, and you can carry a bit of luggage, at least two toothbrushes and a credit card. So what's the point? It's the perfect aeroplane. But as well as the styling, which is a bit classic but also a bit modern, but the really lovely thing about a Cap 10B are the controls. There is no better aeroplane out there with nicer controls. The stick just moves around in any direction, and you just go there. You just ease it to where you want to go, or go quickly, and then we'll go. But it's brilliant controls. It's so coordinated. What a lovely aeroplane. I'd have one like a shot. So there we are. Follow that, guys.
180 horsepower, 130 knots. And like you say, bit of baggage space, lovely handling. A fantastic little piece of info that I picked up once, because I've done a few hours in the Cap 10. The French Air Force had them as trainers, and I don't know what the source of it was, but apparently one of the chief training guys in the French Air Force says any pilot trained on the Cap 10 is then well equipped to fly anything in the French Air Force fleet.
Oh, right.
I thought that's high praise.
Wow.
Yeah. Who's next?
I think that's
Johnny.
me. Yeah, so I've picked the Citabria because it ticks many boxes for me. It's good fun. It's a stable platform. It's easy to fly. It's aerobatic. It's a tail dragger. It looks reasonably good. It's good in yellow. But for me, it's the aircraft that kind of opened up tailwheel flying and aerobatics and farm stripping for me. And they're really quite economical to operate. I was paying 130 quid an hour, I think, which it might be more than that nowadays, but back then it was a pretty good value for money airplane. And I think in terms of operating costs, that had a tiny 115 horsepower. I'm not sure what cubic inch that would be, but Ed can say.
I'm guessing that would have been an 0235 Lycoming.
I'll take your word for it. But yeah, it was a good, economical, fun airplane, and I learned a lot in it. So that's why I picked it.
Should have gone for
Citabria.
Super Decathlon. Citabria, a grown-up Citabria.
Yeah, Super Decathlon's got the big motor though, hasn't it? So may not be, maybe a bit more thirsty, possibly.
Nothing wrong with big motors.
Yeah.
Okay. Who's next? Is it me?
I think it's me next.
Oh,
so
okay.
If it is me next, then my choice was a Bonanza F-33C. Why is that? Well, you can do. I mean, Bonanza's a fantastic looking aircraft for a start. There's plenty of room for touring. Put it in, you can just fly from A to B, no problem. And the F-33C was also aerobatic, so if you fancy some aeros occasionally, then you can do that as well. Plus, you can get in and out of a few strips. I mean, what's not to like? Classic. Ed, what are you going to?
Yeah, the Bonanza is a good machine.
Yes,
I'll give you that. So my choice, because I went, well, again, it's because Dave and I chatted today, because it's like we nearly had alternate choices. Dave nearly picked the RV7, I nearly picked the Cap 10, but actually I think the RV6 So the van's the world's most popular home built, and it's most popular for a reason, because it carries 2 people and some bags, and has got a really good turn of speed. The handling is pretty friendly, but very capable. It's aerobatic. And obviously you can also own and maintain it on a permit to fly, which means if you want to get your hands dirty and do a bit of maintenance yourself, you can save money and look after your pride and your joy in that manner. So fantastic machine. I built one back in 2002 with a mate of mine, and it was a sad day when I sold out of that, but a really wonderful machine. So they're a bit pricey, but you could still probably pick one up for under 70k. So maybe build a group around it and share that capability. So someone looks like we've got comments. It's Fuji 200 ticks all the boxes. Ooh,
isn't that a camera?
So, yeah, I mean, Fuji's not bad, is it? I mean, they did have some undercarriage issues a few years ago, I think, and you could still buy new undercarriage from Subaru, couldn't you? You go, how much is my airplane? It's worth 30 grand. How much is the new undercarriage? About 30 grand. 30 grand. But I think all of the people who have yet to comment, when they do comment, will agree that I got it right with the Bonanza.
So far, Jonathan Turner says, good call, Ed. So I'm taking that as a win.
Okay, fair enough. Right. I think it's probably time to move on from Fantasy Hangar. Time marching on, as it were.
Yeah.
Ben, thank you very much for joining us and taking a break from your radar display, joining us here on Fly Live. So just first of all, we're going to be talking about air traffic control and microlighting. So just tell us quickly
day job
about
wise.
your day
Okay,
job.
so obviously you've covered that. I'm an air traffic controller, so rated in tower and radar approach at a generic military unit somewhere in Hampshire. So I'm a civilian. It's as a lot of military units are these days. It's kind of farmed out to civilian companies. So I work for a civilian company, but I'm a civvy controller with civvy licenses, just operating in that sort of military environment.
Great. Yeah, and you also fly microlights. So just tell us a bit about that.
What
do you
I fly
from?
a Sky Ranger with a 582 on the front, which is very desirable, from a little farm strip near Bath called Brown Shutters Farm. Which, I mean, I mock the aircraft, but I do love it in its own sort of uniquely bland but interesting and scary but comfortable kind of way. But yeah.
Yeah. So what came first, air traffic control or your PPL?
So I started my air traffic control. Really, I started off as an assistant actually at the unit I'm at now. I wanted to kind of progress, become a controller, and all the rest of it. But also I wanted to fly, and kind of the microlighting side of things. It was affordable for where I was at the time, and all the rest of it. And it kind of interested me. The sort of the farm stripping side of things is something that I really do enjoy, and you can get in and out of most places. Doesn't necessarily have to be a farm strip. It could be a local rugby club, for example, might have been done, things like that. So yeah, I learned to fly microlights up at Clenchcon with GS Aviation. They were great at the time, and that was 11 years ago now. So I've been knocking about the scene for a bit, but it's only really been the last 2 or 3 years that I've really spread my wings. I had a tiny break in amongst that as well. But yeah, so I kind of learned to fly because I wanted to fly, but I did think it would help me sort of hopefully progress and build my understanding of aviation as a whole with regards to the day job side of things. Yeah.
So did you explore any other avenues of flying, like doing your PPL on Group A or anything like that?
It's things that I've explored, always looked at as well. I mean, anything from sort of gliding, the flex wing side, the 3-axis thing that I fly, and I've had trial lessons in Group A, and I've managed to blag a few flights at work in sort of tutors and fireflies, and done some sort of aerobatics and things like that, which has always been great fun. But I mean, for me, it's most bang for your buck, really. And I mean, I'm pootling around the sky at 18 quid an hour, so I can't really grumble that. I mean, I could fly Group A and fly 1/10 of the hours a year, but I'd rather fly fly the more hours, even if I am going slower and it's a bit nippy and drafty sometimes.
Yeah, that goes back to what Ed and I were saying earlier about there being a breadth of available, options you can pick from, and flying at that kind of price is just opens up the door to so many other people. But talking about RT now, being a controller and a private pilot, your RT must be perfect.
I might just leave that actually. I'd say it's broadly fine, like most people's. Really, I think everyone's their own worst critic when it comes to RT. I mean, I think some people are very nervous about even calling a unit. Really, some people it's radio off. I'll go around, I won't bother anybody, won't talk to anybody. But I think, I mean, everyone's capable of slips. I mean, on both sides of it. Sometimes my RT in the sky is rubbish, and sometimes my RT in the tower is suboptimal as well. But I think the main focus really is that everybody's trying to get people from A to B as safely as possible. And as a controller, I'd rather have a pilot or an aircraft on my frequency, even if the RT is not the best, because we can offer that sort of level of protection and stuff. And it's all about sort of building that situational awareness, really, from both sides of things.
Yeah. So, what are the most common bad habits that pilots like me will make?
I don't know about you, mate. You seem, from what I've heard of you, you seem reasonably decent. I think, yeah, said an anonymous voice in the background. I'd say probably maybe thinking on the RT is something that can be avoided. So the whole think before you speak side of things, I know that sounds a little bit sort of cliche or obvious, but it does make you sound more polished, and also it frees up the frequency for other people that might be getting in, particularly if the controller's working hard or busy and all the rest of it. Even if it doesn't sound like there's a lot of traffic on the frequency itself, the controller might be on a landline or working multiple frequencies and all the rest of it. So you can be concise and punchy, for want of a better word. That does help. Obviously, knowing the mandatory readbacks is always handy, and having a rough awareness of the Cat 4 and 3. But I mean, generally speaking, first calls and all the rest of it, all we really need to know as a controller is who you are, what you are, where you are, and what you want, really. Whether that's I would like to taxi, or I'd like to cross your ATZ, or I would like a basic service, anything like that. And if you stick to that sort of general format, you can't go far wrong, really. If we need anything else, we'll come back and challenge you.
Great. Could you give us sort of 2 top tips for people watching collectively, for all of us, to improve our RT?
Rehearse the call in your head. Sounds a little bit arduous, really, but as I say, if you go into it knowing that, like, stick to that format of who, what, where, and what do I want side of things, as I say, you won't go far wrong. And aside from that, really just practicing, whether you're practicing with your mate in your clubhouse or whatever, if you're feeling a little bit rusty, particularly after the layoff that we've all had as pilots, or just getting out and getting used to that environment, and operating in different environments as well. I mean, your RT on safety comm, you want to keep that concise as well, because everyone's using that frequency if they're going into a farm strip and all the rest of it. So you don't want to be tying up everybody else's frequency, but then you can sort of mix that up with going to a fully fledged air traffic unit like your Gloucesters and places like that, and yeah, air ground and FISA as well, and also knowing what you're actually in receipt of and the differences between what level of service you're getting, what protection you're getting, if any, as well. Kind of, again, it comes back to the whole sort of situational awareness piece, really.
Yeah, great. So one thing I didn't prep you on, but I'll ask this anyway, is just briefly talk me through a typical day, either in the tower or down in the approach room.
So I mean, first thing we do, we spend probably 15-20 minutes just briefing. So that's getting up to date on any local NOTAMs, local area activity, getting to grips with the flying program of the day. I mean, that's one thing about working at a military unit. You don't really have any predictability, as it were. Sort of things happen quite quickly and can often be non-standard, and you can have things fast forward. But if you go into that prepared, it gives you the sort of added mental kind of capacity to deal with sort of the abnormals as and when they arise. Regarding sort of plugging in, whether it's upstairs or downstairs, again, because it's a fluctuating sort of traffic situation, it's not very easy to plan. You go where you're needed the most, really. So I mean, you might start off upstairs, do an hour upstairs, have your cup of tea, half-hour break, and then go and do an hour or two in radar if it's busy, or if it's not, you might go back upstairs. It's all a bit kind of, I wouldn't say winging it, but you go where is operationally kind of necessary.
Yeah, great. And as the comment popped up earlier, you know, controllers are human. People are watching one now. Is there one kind of personal message that you would want to share with the GA community?
Use us, really. I know it's, as I say, some people can be nervous about sort of particularly making that first call, it seems. I mean, I even found it as well when I first sort of started getting out and about in the world, sort of spreading my wings, and I was even just asked for a basic service with Bryce or Boscombe or whoever from the area that I fly in. So that first call was always kind of, should I do it now or should I do it now? But I think it's just repetition makes you better and practice makes you better. But even if you think a call's not gone particularly well, it won't be as bad as you think it was. So yeah, I think just use us. We're here to provide a service. That is our reason for existing, and to make things as safe as we possibly can. So that's all we really want. We're not here to file on you or trip you up or anything like that.
Yeah, fantastic. So just briefly tell me, have you got any great flying plans?
Just to fly as much as I can, to be honest. I mean, my great flying plan for yesterday was to go to the Isle of Wight, and I burst a tyre on landing and ended up staying for 3 hours longer than I meant to, but the pizza was really good, so it was fine, and I got back in the end of the day. But yeah, just get out and about, farm strips, bigger airfields. I'm happy either way.
Fantastic. Well, it's good that you got back, and well done for everybody that gave you assistance. So thank you very much for joining us, and I'm probably some of our viewers will have spoken to you over the airwaves whilst they've been flying around. So thanks very much for joining us on Fly Live. Cheers.
Wow. Excellent. What a lovely guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes, they really are.
They're human. Yes.
I remember I had terrible trouble when I was learning to fly with RT, and to break this cycle, my instructor put me in one room with a radio and him in another room, and we were following a so-called route on a chart, and he was making calls to me, and I was making calls back, but without having to fly the aeroplane, just concentrating on the RT, it cracked it, and it's much easier that way.
We could all get a radio and just radio Pipistrel to you and see if you.
Don't be mean today. Right.
Sorry, Dave.
What's next?
Next, I think we've got a stand visit next.
Excellent.
We have indeed. Now, one of the consequences of the past year on air travel has been the number of airliners and other aircraft that have had their out-of-service dates brought forward, and the most famous of which is probably the 747, which has retired from many airlines, not least of which most famously would be BA. And one company that's helping extend the legacy of these aircraft in people's own homes is Gloucester-based Aerotiques, and here's what they had to say. Well, Darren, thank you very much for joining us here on Fly Live. Just start by explaining a bit about what Aerotiques does.
Something that we started about 5 years ago, and the basic concept is you take a piece of an aeroplane that's not flying anymore and turn it into something cool. And that's pretty much what we've done. It's something that I've wanted to do for a very, very long time, and it came about almost by accident when we took on my business partner at Gloucestershire Airport when I used to run the airport, and he was very much the same mindset and is far more talented as a designer than I, and got a few bits and pieces, turned them into cool things, and kind of the idea was born. So we upcycle airplanes. We make artwork, we make furniture, we make functional items from aircraft parts, and it doesn't feel like a job, to be honest. We just get to mess around with cool stuff like this that you can do.
So just talk us through some of the bits you're working on at the moment.
Well, over the last year in particular, with the retirement of the 747, our workshop has been full of jumbo jet parts. British Airways and Virgin have retired their 747 fleets, and a lot of people out there want a piece of the Queen of the Skies to remember their time either flying as crew, cabin crew, passengers. It's one of those iconic aeroplanes that everybody instantly recognises, and I think you can probably see behind me there's a section of 747 fuselage that we've cut down, stripped down, polished, and we've also we laser etch the window panes, make those into clocks, and so certainly a lot of focus this year on the 747, but that doesn't rule out everything else. We are more than happy to work with anything, and if it flies, or even if it didn't fly, we've upcycled runway lights into table lamps, anything aeronautical, generally made out of good quality materials, designed well, sleek, aerodynamic, and turning them into other stuff is just great fun.
Brilliant, I can imagine it must be. So can people supply their own aircraft parts for you to work on?
Yeah, absolutely. We've done quite a lot of commission work. We produced a TV stand for a client recently from his AA5 engine. So his pistons and his cylinders and various bits and pieces were made into a two-tier stand for his TV and home entertainment soundbar and all that type of stuff. And we delivered that. So yeah, we're more than happy to work with our clients, upcycling their components. And yes, we do it a lot. We really like working with people to do those very personalised things, from an aircraft that they've flown, they've owned, or favourite aircraft type, whatever. If you've got something lurking in the back of your shed or tucked away in the corner of the hangar, get in touch, definitely.
Brilliant. And just briefly, has the past year increased the demand for things like this?
Yeah, enormously so. I was genuinely quite concerned at the start of the pandemic that people would think about, the purchases that they were making. And let's be realistic here. These are luxury items. They're not essential by any stretch of the imagination. But I think, particularly with the retirement of the 747 and the fact that everybody's been spending so much more time at home than would normally be the case, they've chosen to make the place look cool. And I think we're probably that one little corner of the aviation industry that has done okay in the last 12 months, and that's helped us build up our client base, and of course that's added on to more work. Quite a lot of our 747 clients have come back for other bits and pieces, everything from key rings and fan blades and tags of aircraft right the way up to board tables and across the spectrum, really. Yeah. So yeah, it's been a growing market in the last 12 months, surprisingly.
So just tell us how people can get in touch with you if they're interested in buying something.
The usual outlets, our website, aerotiques.co.uk, and you'll find us on all the social media channels, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, Aerotiques, and get in touch, see what we've got for sale already. We've got a small stock of pre-produced components on the website, but more than happy to talk about commissions and always going forward.
That's great. Well, thank you very much for joining us on Fly Live, Darren.
Pleasure.
All the best. Bye-bye. Now, making headlines recently was Lithuanian ATO Air Hub, and they were offering an integrated ATPL, type rating, 200 hours, and a job for 69,000 euros, which seemed like great value. So I spoke to Alexandras Nemenatis from their base in Vilnius. Thank you, Alex, for joining us on Fly Alive. Just tell us a bit about what Air Hub is.
Air Hub Aviation is a small aviation academy which based in Lithuania, and most of the training are in Lithuania, but we are about to open the flight base in Cyprus, so some people could do the flying in there, because then we can make sure you can fly all year round. The weather in Lithuania does not always meet the criteria you can fly.
So just tell us a bit about the packages that AirHub offer.
We used to do just PPL and some training for few airlines for the professional pilots. I mean, type ratings and all that stuff. This year, we are about to launch the ATPL integrated program, and both of them are going to be as a cadet program for one special airline.
Right. Okay. So the ATP package that you offer seems like a really good value for money package. Can you just talk us through the breakdown of it?
Okay. So we are supported by GetJet Airline, and that's the cadet program for them. So we are up to have 12 students for cadet programs, and the program is going to start in June this year. And the package contains ATPL integrated. Then you will have the type rating, and the student can choose between Boeing 737 or Airbus, because the GetJet has both type of aircraft in their park. Base training, of course, 6 touch and goes, and 200 hours of flying experience is granted as well, and all that for 69,000 euro.
Brilliant. So if students out there are interested in AirHub, how should they go about finding out more information?
You can go on our website, which is airhub.aero. All the information in there, the contacts. We really appreciate the individual approach. So it's enough just to email us, I'm interested, and then you will get the call or email from us in a few hours. So we'll explain everything. We can do the video calls, everything, just for the students to get maximum information to make a decision.
Brilliant. That sounds really interesting. So thank you very much, Alex, and thanks for being part of Fly Live.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
And you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Well, I have to say, there's a few bits and pieces that Darren's got in his studio that wouldn't mind adorning the Flyer Live studio.
I know you still covet the Stearman wing table, don't you?
Yeah, I haven't got enough room for the Stearman wing table, so maybe I need a kind of like I don't know, a Pete and Paul tailplane or something instead.
Or the Cirrus fin wine rack.
Definitely, I can always make room for a wine rack. And that AirHub stuff, yeah, I mean, the detail of that offer seems ridiculous, really. Full ATPO and everything else, plus type rating for less than the cost of.
About the only thing in there they just needed a free aeroplane.
I think so.
Yeah.
Good point. Now, it won't surprise you to know that we're running slightly behind schedule on our first ever Flyer Live evening. So there's a couple of features that we've taken from today and transposed into tomorrow. So tomorrow you can find out what we've got in our flight bag, what our flying plans are, all sorts of other great stuff tomorrow. But for now, we're going to go straight into a film from Mistral. Mistral is the UK dealer for Robin aircraft. So probably one of my favourite aircraft, actually. A good little secret thing. So let's have a look at that film. Steve, thank you very much for joining us. How are you doing?
I'm good, thanks, Ian. Thanks for having me along.
Absolute pleasure. Absolute pleasure. Before we go on, could you just give us a little bit of history on Mistral and a little bit of history on a Robin?
Okay, well, Jenny and I have been involved with Robin since 2008, and we took over the concession of General Aviation for Robin sales in 2011, and in between we were involved with Robin in various projects, avionics and engine certification. Robin aircraft goes back all the way to 1957, when Pierre Robin started manufacture in Darrois, where the workshops still are today, in a half-barrel shaped hangar, which is also still there today and indeed is still in use. And since then there have been changes, of course, but really, there's only been one change of ownership, and there's been some restructuring, but there's still been a very high degree of continuity. So there's at least one person there today who was there at the birth of the DR400 in 1972.
Wow. So how does it actually work? If someone wants to buy one, do you buy a DR400 off the shelf, or?
No, all the DR401s are made to order. They're all bespoke aircraft. and there's a very, very high degree of personalization, which is why the lead time is 12 months. And you can have, within reason, what you like. So you can have your own color scheme outside, you can have your own interior design, you can have monogram carpets and seat leather if you wish. And in addition to that, there's a very, very broad range of options. So you end up with an aircraft that is very specific to you as the buyer. It takes a little bit longer, but you get what you want. And that bespoke nature of the aircraft means that it's simply not practical to have inventory waiting for sale. And it would take away the very personal nature of buying a robot aircraft. It's a bit like buying a suit. You know, it's the difference between off the peg and tailor-made. Here you're getting the tailor-made version, but actually it's an off the peg price.
I don't know what a suit is, I'm afraid. How's it been going? How's COVID affected things? Is it?
Well, there was an enforced factory closure of, I think, 3 months in spring, early summer of 2020 because of COVID, which obviously slowed down production. But they've caught up from there, and they've got full order books. They're currently producing 20 aircraft a year. They want to gradually expand that. They're aiming for 40 aircraft a year. But that obviously has to be done very gradually. They don't want to overstretch themselves. They don't want to compromise on quality or service. And they've also, of course, got the Cat 10C, the new generation one to build. And since that was introduced at Aero Friedrichshafen 2019, was it? I lose track of Aero Friedrichshafen because so many have been cancelled. But anyway, since it's been reintroduced, it's proven to be very popular, and the French military have just ordered 2, and the Cat airframe takes twice as long to build as a DR401 airframe.
I understand the Cap airframe is about the same price as DR400, roughly speaking, although they're obviously very different aircraft. But it'd be a tough choice, wouldn't it?
Well, yes, they are very different aircraft. The Cat 10 is I mean, you could use it for touring. It's a very precise handling aeroplane, so maybe not as comfortable to fly in as the DR401, which is a very easy handling, relaxed airplane to fly, but you could do it and do a few arrows on the way.
Right, clearly one of each is the way to go.
I think that is right.
Absolutely. Okay, well, thank you very much for joining us today. I know you're joining us later on in the week where we're going to talk a little bit more about the specifics of the performance and the cost element of it and what it actually costs for a Robin. So thank you very much, and I look forward to talking to you soon.
Thank you. See you soon.
There you go. So hands up who hasn't flown a Robin. That's just you then, Johnny, is it? You need to add to your aeronautical experiences. Go find a Robin and fly. I have to say, the Robin diesel, I think, is probably one of the sweetest diesel engine conversions I've ever flown. Very, very nice aircraft, the Robin. And
it's a great match of airframe and power plant, that, isn't it?
Fantastic. And it's also, if you get a chance, if you're anywhere near the factory down in Dijon, see if you can organise a bit of a factory tour. You might get the Gallic shrug or something. I don't know, but if you talk to Stephen Bailey beforehand, I'm sure he'll sort it out. It's a fascinating place to go around and watch all these sort of craftsmen gluing together bits of wood to make aerospace. Yeah, fantastic little aircraft.
It's awesome, and it's great that they're building the Cap again.
Yes, very good. They're building the Cap again, and I love the Robin because I passed my GFT in one. If I'd have failed, I would hate it as an aeroplane, but I didn't, and so I liked it. The examiner did say something about the cliche about being shot down, but there you go.
So what's next? We got a video from Bose, haven't we?
We got a video from Bose. We got Theodora from Bose interviewing someone about their flying. Someone who went from microlights to is nearly at 737. So a young guy called William. So let's have a listen to Theodora.
Hi, my name is Thea. I work for Bose Aviation Europe, currently based in Amsterdam for this interview. And today we have with us William, a young pilot who is going to share a bit about his flying experience. William, can you please introduce yourself and tell us why you fly?
Hello, I'm William, 22 years old from Wiltshire in the UK. why I fly, I'm not really sure. I think when I grew up, it was just always what I wanted to do. Yeah, I started flying 14. At 14, I flew microlights, not necessarily with the idea of it becoming a career, but once I realised it could be a career, I think you know just as well as I do, it's a bug, aviation, and once you catch it, you never want to let it go. So yeah, I started commercial training 2018 down in Exeter, Aviation Southwest, and yeah, that was 18 months there or thereabouts. Graduated straight into my first type rating, which unfortunately fell through just as COVID-19 was really starting to take hold of the aviation industry. So yeah, then 12 months later, here I am again for attempt number 2, which is, yeah, really good challenge.
Okay. Oh, it seems that everything went by quite fast, except until a year ago, when unfortunately the pandemic hit everybody. But here you are, back at it again with the type rating. So that's good to hear this story. Coming back to your flight training, can you tell us a bit more about the challenges? What were there? How was it like for you?
I mean, as you, I'm sure you're aware, the flight training is made up of 2 main components: the theoretical side, which is sort of just a bombardment of information, short amount of time to absorb a lot of information. It's also academically quite challenging. And then there's the other side, which is the practical side, which again, you don't fly necessarily that much, but you fly a lot of hours in a short period of time. So it is an overload on the senses in terms of the amount of flying you're doing and the amount of new things you're learning, but also, yeah, when you actually start flying, it's an overload on the senses in an aeroplane. There's a lot of information. I think there's a common misconception that what you see is all that you need to worry about when you're flying, what you see out the windows and what's on the instruments, but there's so much information that comes in actually through your ears when you think about things like air traffic control, your instructor, and the communication's both ways with those. So they need to be able to hear you clearly as well as you need to be able to hear them clearly. One of the biggest challenges when you're flying instrument flying, especially the way the test is done at the moment, you have to manually identify things like the DME and the ILS, and they are never very loud and never very clear. So being able to have a good headset so you can hear them can save you a lot of money, because if you get the wrong identifier or the wrong clearance, you can put yourself into a bit of bother, end up failing a test, and it's a 1,400 quid test, which is the last thing you want to do.
Sounds very overwhelming. But then how could you cope with this environment?
I mean, it's definitely startling when you first get into it. And I remember I actually didn't enjoy my first flight. I felt totally out of my comfort zone. It was too noisy, too uncomfortable. I was not necessarily looking in the right places when I was flying, began to feel motion sick, things like that. So yeah, first flight experience definitely was not great. But once you start, we talk a lot on the commercial flying about managing controlling the controllables and finding what you can and can't deal with. And we'd love to fly around in air-conditioned aircraft the whole time, and beautifully comfortable aircraft that are silent, but that's not going to happen. So you've got to control what you can control, and one of the easiest things I could control was the noise. So yeah, it made sense for me to look into noise cancelling headsets, because everyone you speak to who's in commercial training or instructors, they all say noise cancelling headsets do change the environment you're learning in. And yeah, now having experienced it, I'd 100% agree that it does. It just makes it far more enjoyable and allows you to focus on what matters.
You mentioned, so this flight training is a very short amount of time that you have to fly, fit in those 200 hours flying. Can you explain how did you decide on buying a premium headset for this?
So as I said, with commercial training, once you start, it's a large investment, £60,000 at least. And you're looking at potentially this is going to be a job for a career. So it's, for me, making the decision to spend on a premium headset wasn't necessarily a very complicated one, because it was going to add 1 or 2% to my course fees. When you're already paying £60,000, making it 61 and adding a premium headset doesn't necessarily make it any worse. It makes it worse for bank of mum and dad, but not necessarily. And yeah, you're going to use this. It's 1% more to your course fee, but it's used 100% of your training. All the time that you spend in the aircraft, you're using it. All the time you spend in the back of an aircraft watching someone else fly, you're using it. And for me, I'll be using it hopefully for the rest of my career. It's sort of amazing to think that I could be flying a Cessna on a Monday morning and then a 737 on a Tuesday to Fuerteventura and back, and using the same headset. But yeah, so it was logical to invest into something. It's just like investing in a medical for me, or and investing in the training on the whole.
Like you said, it's a great tool to be compatible with your training, but also with your commercial career. It's a headset that is certified, and you can also change the plug configuration to have it transposed to different aircraft. So that's very handy.
That was one of the most exciting things for me, was changing the microphone from the left to the right for being a first officer. That was really exciting.
So talking about this, the feature of our headset, can you explain your decision to choose Bose as a headset?
So for me, I've always tried to base what I buy, whether it's training, a toaster, whatever you're buying, you base it off of what other people have said, because they've got experience with it. So my first flying instructor, Mark, had a Bose X headset, and whilst I trained for the 4 years with him, had no problems with it. So he obviously set in my mind that potentially Bose was going to be something I'd invest into. Once I'd started commercial training, again, it was, okay, now it probably is the time to think about the headset, and I got the experience of trying one from one of the instructors. Wasn't necessarily massively impressed to start off with, because I'd forgotten to turn it on. But once I turned it on, yeah, it was certainly changed my mind, and I immediately went out and bought one.
Yeah. Happy to know. Talking about the pilot gears, what piece of advice would you give to aspiring pilots?
So yeah, I think 3 most important things for me when it comes to pilot gear are the license and medical. They obviously are first things in my flight bag. My knee board, because that allows me to keep control of what I've done in the flight, what I'm planning to do. And then yeah, my headset is without a doubt the third thing that goes in my flight bag, and I wouldn't go flying without mine now. I think when you're just starting out flying, especially if you're looking to go commercial, those first few hours in an aircraft are vital, that you're able to focus on what your instructor is saying to you being able to communicate to your instructor, and also picking up on the air traffic control. Everyone's listening to air traffic control, and they talk at 1,000,000 miles an hour. So it's really important to be able to actually hear what they're saying. And yeah, so for anyone thinking about commercial training, I'd 100% recommend looking into a noise cancelling headset. And from my experience, I'd 100% recommend using the Bose headset.
Great that you could share your experience with us today, William. I appreciate it. Well, thank you for your time. I think we're getting almost by the end of the interview. So I'm going to wish you the best for your flying career. And yeah, hopefully see you soon.
Thank you very much. And thank you for making the headset. It's been a really useful tool for me during my training. Definitely changed the way I fly. And I personally think it probably has saved me money, because I'm sure there's been times in flights where I've been able to pick up on information I wouldn't have picked up on without it. So yeah, I'm very grateful for it, and yeah, it's one of my most important tools for when I go flying. So thank you very much.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
That was Bose headsets. Have to say, I'm a bit of a fan of Bose, not just because they are sponsors. In fact, nothing to do with the fact that they're sponsors. I've got this theory that something you use a lot when you fly can make, particularly a headset, can make the difference between a sort of super relaxing, pleasant experience and a horrible one. I remember flying a Cessna Skycatcher once on a demo with a set of old generic headsets that kind of almost had screws in them that were like screwed into your head, and it was the most painful, awful experience that I could. It was horrible, but a good headset, and I have to say I do love my Bose headsets. Just make life so much more tranquil.
Yeah,
good,
yeah, good, clear, comfortable communications. That's what you want.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, it looks like we've got to 9 o'clock, and we've moved a couple of things from today to tomorrow. We've had a few little minor scheduling issues and trying to figure things out here, but we're getting there. Before we go, I do have to thank our sponsors again, because without the sponsors, we wouldn't be able to do this. So thank you to UAvionics, Bose, Garmin, Cirrus, Leading Edge Aviation, Mistral, Pulis, Bristol Ground School, and Textron Aviation. We look forward to seeing you all tomorrow for yet another 2 hours. Maybe more, not less, maybe a little bit more. 2 hours of stuff, including some stuff that we didn't get in today that we'll get in tomorrow. We'll just get the compressors out overnight and do that. So thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much for watching. Ed, Dave, Johnny, and the team at Redison, thank you very much. And we look forward to seeing you all tomorrow. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.